I have a question.
Yeah.
I had Albert here 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and we were talking about the reasoning behind subluxation, and it came to our charlas, and we were explaining the similarities and differences that we have in our charlas, and there was a lot of stuff that we did similar, and there was a lot of stuff that we did different. But something that was different is I put a lot of emphasis on the stressors, so like the free T's, and I sit and talk to them, and I'm like, the physical stress, the chemical stress, the emotional stress causes the subluxation, and then we got into the topic of it's an adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was basically trying to explain to him, and you're mentioned actually in the podcast, and I was like, I'm butchering this analogy, but I saw Amy Burke, it was whenever you did the seminar at Lyceum, and I was like, if we take the same thing, because we were asking each other, we were being open-minded about it, and I was like, if you ask Amy Burke will say, there was stresses happening to the body, and the body knew it couldn't adapt at that moment, so it decided to do it later. Now, Albert's retort to that was, well, if the body's so smart that it can make that adaptation and subluxate itself, why do I need to go to the chiropractor? Why, if the body's so smart, why would it not unsubluxate itself? And the example that I came up with in the moment was, okay, let's say that you are a mother of 2 small kids, and all of a sudden your husband dies. There's a freak car accident or an illness or something, and it's like from one day to the next gone. You don't really have time to adapt to that stress. You have 2 small kids, let's say one's 4, one's 7. You have to organize the funeral proceedings, you have to organize the will, you have to get the family together, you have to organize all this stuff, and you have to be strong for the kids. So you're there, you go through the funeral proceedings, and then you do the best you can with what you have. The kids start to grow up. The last kid gets to 18. He goes off to college. That person comes into my office. They have a C2 on the right. We move the C2. That person now then goes home, and it's only now that emotional stress that happened a few years ago, because we don't know where the stress came from that caused the subluxation, unless you got vaccinated. But that woman then goes home, and she sits down, and that's the moment that she's like, oh, that was a lot. And then she starts crying. Yeah. And I've had that a few times in here, and you've seen it as well, where a patient will come in and you just have to say 1 or 2 things after the adjustment, and there's a huge release. But the conversation that we were having in that podcast is why, if the body can decide to adapt to that later, why doesn't it do it? Why do we need to go to the chiropractor?
Well, it's a really good question, and the basis of that question was why for me the definition of subluxation that I was taught, which was it's basically a failure to adapt. I was like, well, if the body's so smart, and if innate intelligence is so smart, then why
would it not adapt in the first place?
Why? Are we really saying that innate intelligence just loves chiropractic, and so chiropractors need to exist, and so therefore we need to create a system that its one failure is that it can't adapt to stressors? And I said that makes absolutely no sense. So if we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence, which I totally do, then subluxations have a purpose, and that purpose is as important as anything else in that person's life. So there's a reason there's a reason that they exist, and for me that reason is not a failure to adapt. That just sounds like a shite reason.
Shite.
And
very Northern Irish.
Thank you.
Shite.
And I've been watching Dairy Girls just to get ready.
I love Dairy Girls.
I love Dairy Girls.
Do you know Dairy?
Of course.
I never thought that you'd know Dairy Girls.
What? It's like we watch it all the time.
Wow. Yeah. I'm impressed.
Okay. So, shite reason. Okay. So,
failure to adapt.
yeah, like in that picture, I just cannot believe that we as a profession are dedicating ourselves to the one failure of innate instead of looking at innate and saying innate is amazing, perfect, orchestrates everything. Innate didn't screw up when it came to subluxations. They are there for a purpose and a reason. And from the perspective of BGI, that purpose and reason is that information from that event that was unable to be integrated at the moment is being stored in the system until a time where it can be integrated at a future date. Now, I believe that most people do not have the skill set required to be able to say, okay, I'm going to sit down now and I'm going to release all of that stored tension. But the thing is,
Can you do that through other means than
chiropractic,
like meditation
or sound, whatever? It's like, because it's all vibration and tone.
Healing.
Right? It's vibration and tone. So anything that matches that tone of that experience that's being stored in your system is going to shift it. It may not fully integrate or fully release, but it's going to change it. So whether that's walking on the beach and taking a huge deep breath and remembering who you really are, and then all of a sudden you're just like, and stuff starts to go, stuff starts to release. I mean, I feel like we've all had experiences where, okay, so if the sole purpose of chiropractic is to reunite man the physical and man the spiritual, we're not talking about releasing subluxations. We're talking about remembering who we are, remembering our connection to spirit, remembering our interconnectedness. Like, this is perfect, right? All of these triangles and in this web of interconnectedness, because we can see how this dot is connected to that dot, even though it's not a straight line. We can see the path. We know it's interconnected. And that's true for my body, but it's also true for all of us as a human species. So, yes, the goal of the chiropractor is whether it's to restore neural integrity or to release subluxations or to increase mechanoreception at a nerve root. The umbrella of that, according to Didi, was to reunite man the physical with man the spiritual.
Right.
So Didi also said chiropractic isn't the end of all of this, that there will be something that comes after chiropractic that will be better at doing this than chiropractic.
I didn't know that.
Yes, he did. I'll send it to you.
That's
That's something that I learned from Tara Dennis, and she would be great to have on your podcast. So anyway, I don't really know the answer to that question because I'm not sure that the body isn't smart enough at some times to be able to release subluxations. I feel like bodies are releasing subluxations a lot, and it's just really those kind of big gnarly ones that we need a little help. We need someone else to see. Like, when you're in the thick of it, it's really hard to see the way out. But sometimes it just takes somebody to go, you're struggling the wrong way.
Yeah. Like,
just take 2 steps backwards.
Right.
And then you go, oh wow, okay, I didn't even see that opportunity or that option. Yeah. And
just put this mask on, and all your problems will go away.
No, not that one. And so it's like the role in the chiropractic office, I feel like, in touching people and releasing subluxations and releasing stored potential, is not to mechanically fix someone, but to release the potential stored in the system. And that potential can be released by a chiropractor as it can be by taking a good run. And so if somebody's going, well, then I'm just going to go running, I'm not going to go to the chiropractor. Everybody does whatever they're going to do. And some people resonate with going to see a chiropractor to get checked once a week, once a month, whatever. And the reality is that for me, I'm okay with that. Like, I don't need to be the chiropractor to the world.
Right.
I just want to be to the people who feel like there's benefit to that. And whether it's because of the music in my office or the the way I touch them, it gives them warm fuzzies, or because they feel like everything in their life is clearer and more functional.
Right.
I'm good with all of those.
But then as well, there was a few weeks ago, I'm really trying to distance myself away from social media at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just had I think it was 3 weeks away from Facebook, and you feel so, because it's so easy to get sucked into an argument, and you're just sitting looking at the phone, you're like, is this worth my time?
And
so now I prefer
it's
to...
so interesting, because I feel like it is not so easy to be sucked into an argument.
On Facebook?
Anywhere.
Yeah.
So you might just want to think about that.
Yeah, I am. I really am. But a few weeks ago, I was called a mechanist. I was called a mechanistic chiropractor.
I'm sorry.
Because...
Did that hurt your feelings?
It did a little bit. It's like... you can call me any other name, but don't call me a mechanist. And it was because the question was on one of these forums, and it was like, how long does it take you to adjust?
Uh-huh.
And I said, it takes me about 10 minutes to analyze, and then it takes me 1 minute to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, what analysis are you doing? And I was like, scoping, static palpation, motion palpation, the bilateral weight scales, Gillette, modified Gillette, and then a leg length, and usually maybe an amalgamation of some of those things. Like, oh, why do you need to do that whenever? And they were basically saying, the universe just tells me where to go and I do it. And I'm like, hey, and it was that thing as well. It was like, I want to reconnect man the physical to man the physical to man the, you know what I'm saying?
This physical.
I'm not trying to balance a scope or the scales. I'm trying to reconnect man the physical to man the spiritual. And I was like, hey guys, like, I'm on your team, and I think that we can do that. Mm-hmm. But my way of doing it is I want to have some objectivity. Mm-hmm. I want to have something that makes me be like, this is a left PI because X, Y, Z. I don't just want to be like that and just, I'm going to do whatever I feel like doing today. Mm-hmm. But that didn't go down so well.
Well, okay.
Because they were like...
Can I mediate that?
Sure.
Because I think that between that and...
Test after test after test.
No, and feeling somebody, there's a big difference. Because if you're saying, I'm just going to, pick something and check it and adjust it, mm-hmm. versus I'm just going to feel what I feel and go from there, that's a big difference, right?
Right.
Because one of them, you're actually putting your hands on somebody and saying, I know what I'm doing because I feel trained these.
Yeah.
And I've got it. And if I want backup, I've got all that.
Right.
There's a big difference between that and assuming that somebody who doesn't do all of the scoping or the weights or the Gillettes and the harness, that there's a big difference between I feel and I adjust what I feel,
right, versus
I'm doing the tests and I'm doing what the tests say.
Right.
But I think the step that was missing and that caused the argument is that you weren't owning your skill.
Right.
And they were saying, dude, you're a chiropractic badass. You don't need the scales.
But my what I was trying to communicate to them is, hey, I think that, and to you, I think that I have the hands, like I can feel it. I hope so. I trained a lot. But I also like to be, okay, let's do this as well, just to check. And more out of my own curiosity. Well, I want to see if you have 7 kilograms more on the left when you come in and you leave with 2. Okay, we're on the right track.
But, well, are you though? I mean, does it matter?
I think...
because then because what if that person with 7 kilos versus 2 kilos at the end of the adjustment, what if nothing changed, but you would adjust them? What if they were still on the scales, they were imbalanced, and they went out and they were like, I've been having migraines every week for the last 10 years. I don't have any migraines anymore.
Yeah, great, awesome.
Right, but like, what if that same person was saying, I keep getting the migraines even though my balance is off?
Sure.
Like, it just seems to me, and this is one of the reasons, and I'll be in, I don't know, maybe I won't be your Auntie Amy anymore, but one of the reasons I don't like the subluxation stations and the scanning things is that
Me neither, by the way.
It puts a need on a physiological change that does not necessarily reflect the energetic change
Sure.
that we were talking about earlier. And does it matter?
And I
And
really
people are
liked
like-
your talk on the degeneration model. That gave me some things to think about. Because for me, that's just what you do. Because every chiropractic clinic in Europe, that's what you do. And then you came along and you were like, why are we putting our energy into and reinforcing something that is quite a negative, degenerative thing? And then it puts my because I'm like, well, I'm trying to put the message across that if we do not do anything about this, it is not going to get better, it will get worse. But at the same time, why, whenever you come in here, do I have to be doom and gloom and be like, if it's scare care, they call it, scare care. You better come in or you're going to end up like this.
You're going to die.
So surely there's a nicer way where it can be a bit more
The potential
positive.
energy theory of subluxation.
Yeah. That's why it
You're
gave me
there
some...
to grow and evolve. And that's what's so cool, because that's what happens with people under chiropractic care, whether the chiropractor wants them to or not. People's lives change. And it's not only physical change, it's not only emotional change, it's not only spiritual change, it's not only changes in how they think, it's all of it. And to measure that by some postural or any check, to me feels like we're putting something that is so big in just this tiny little box and going, okay, well, you're too cool to, like, we can't possibly acknowledge all of your capacities. But so for us, we'll just take the fact that your back pain is going to get better, or you will degenerate.
You're putting
less.
it into too small of a box.
Yeah, but we like that as humans because it's measurable and it's scalable.
Right.
And that's what we were talking about earlier with the back pain studies. It's like, it's an easy thing to measure, even though I could argue with that as well, because is it the same instrument? Is it the same person? Is it the same, like, no one is the same enough to be able to compare one person's back pain to another person's back pain. You really can't.
Yeah.
So the fact that any change happened whatsoever is a miracle in and of itself. Like, really, like, we're amazing. But to then, did they talk about changes in their menstrual cycle? Did they talk about changes in their fertility? Did they talk about changes in their sex drive? Did they talk about changes in their weight? Did they talk about changes in their emotional stability, in their mental clarity? And if not, why not? And if so, where is it in the study? And we're just so complex. There's so many factors.
Yeah.
So many factors. So for me, these things, I feel like they're cute. I feel like it's something that we do to confirm what we know. And it also gives the person, like, this is why you're paying me.
A tool,
Because we got a change here.
Right.
But now if you didn't see a change there, would you still feel like you earned your money? And that's a deep question.
Oh yeah. And for me, I think it just gives me a little indicator, but I don't want to put much weight on it.
That's
you see, pun intended.
Yeah.
My job is not, my objective, my job is not to clear a scope. Because you're more than a scope. But if I'm using leg length, a scope, the scales, and my palpation, and let's say 3 of those I feel week on week, it doesn't have to happen like this. Because sometimes actually I might adjust your atlas and the scales get worse. So you came in with 2 kilograms and now you have 7. But the next time you come in, when you come in 4 days from now, you're completely even. Your body needed some time to integrate it. So I think I'm using it as a way to just check for myself that we're on the right track. But my goal isn't to balance scales. My goal isn't to clear a scope. My goal isn't that your legs be even. it's just an indicator. It's just a way for me to see that we're on the right track.
Well, it'll be cool in 10 years to come back and look at this and see if you're still applying all of those tools, just out of curiosity.
That's why I like to do the podcast, because I listen to things that I was saying 2 years ago, and sometimes I listen to it again and I'll be like, I know that in a few years that's gonna bite me in the ass, because someone's gonna go and find it and they're gonna be like, you don't do this anymore, and I'll be like, nope, but you said it with so much certainty and all the time. I'm like, yeah, I have a habit of doing that. That's why we became friends and we became close, because whenever people were doing BGI at the school, I was like, oh, like, what the hell is this?
Madness.
So I was like, okay, let's talk to her and see. And that's the thing. And I'm trying to explain this to the first years in the school, or people that are going through school and they become a technique cultist, where they're like, this is the only way of doing it. And I'm like, look, it would be good if the mechanistic side had a lot more vitalism, and it would be good if the vitalistic side had a bit more mechanism and a bit more objectivity. And each technique will have
that interconnectedness.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's also true, as we were saying earlier, with the warriors and the gatherers and the hunters and that it's not a bad thing to have people be like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And other people say, oh, I do this, and it's completely opposite. Because the reality is that every single person out there is going to resonate with a different thing on that spectrum. Yeah. And so for chiropractic to be able to serve and appeal to the greatest number of people, maybe it's really cool to have that many different kinds of chiropractors.
Yeah.
I mean,
and they will get people.
Yeah, absolutely.